and Rusty is excited to learn. So, last part of the bidding series coming up. What I thought was originally going to be a lot of lessons, or well, a lot of talks, really got condensed into 10. Either I went through it too fast, or um, either I went through it too fast, or I actually covered really what I needed to in an ample amount of time. So today we're going to be finishing off. We're going to talk about no Trump defenses and then some other defenses to special bids, and just kind of review everything we've talked about to this point and like the foundations of a good bidding system. Because of course I don't expect everybody to take everything I've said and take it verbatim. I mean, everybody should have their own bidding theory, but I mean, at the end of the day, there are some fundamental concepts that I think apply to any person when they're drafting out a card in order to figure out what works best. So let's get into it. And by the way, for those who do not see this live, you can always see this on my YouTube channel using the YouTube command. And my notes to this point are on my Discord channel in the bidding channel on my Discord server using the Discord command. So last time we talked about overcalls, no Trump overcalls and suit overcalls, and then we talked about slam bidding. Yeah, somehow I don't even doubt that. So we talked about slam bidding also, and like the different ways you can get to good slams that really the robots don't take up enough. So let's just get into it. So we started by talking about no Trump overcalls, and direct seat no Trump overcalls are very straightforward, but balancing seat no Trump overcalls are where there's a little bit of room for improvement. Standard treatment is like 11 to 14, but I feel like that range is too narrow. I feel like I don't want to have to balance, or I don't feel like I want to double and then bid no Trump with a 15 or 16 count. I feel like I've seen more success balancing no Trump there. So instead for the balancing no Trump, I've increased the range to 11 to 16. And what I did to be able to, properly handle that and figure out where you need to be, is to use range ass stamen, which is instead of just normal stamen, it comes with different tiers of responses. So the idea is that with a minimum hand, you rebid at the 2 level. If you're in the medium, you start with 2 no, which is could be with any type of major suit holding. If your partner's still interested, they could bid 3 clubs to re-ask. And then last but not least, there's 3-level responses for the strongest hands of them all. So take a look at this hand, for example. So let's say West opens a diamond and it goes passed around to South, who would balance 1 no, and North with with an 11 count would ask. They would bid 2 clubs, and now South bids 2 no to show a medium hand, 13 or 14 points. For triple three, North probably is going to pass. If this is imps, you can make a case maybe they try 3 no. It's going to be tight, but more often than not, you would pass here. So that's how you can stay low with this system. Because if you're at the minimum, respond on the 2 level. If you're in the middle, you respond with 2 no, and then if you're at the top, you respond on the 3 level. So that's range ass stamen. And some people play range ass stamen different ways. I play it with 3 ranges. Some people play it with 2, where you cut out the middle. And then, the min is like 11 to 13, and the max is 14 to 16. There's people who do that, and that's also reasonable. It just depends on, whether you want to be all the way at the 3 level when you're at the bottom of that, like with 14 points opposite whatever could be asking for an invite. So we talked about suit overcalls, and specifically for major suit overcalls, we talked about how transfers could be valuable just like they are over a major suit opening double. The idea being that after a major overcall negative double, you would still play transfers. The only main difference between that and the major opening is the different ways in which you can show support. The idea being that if you're able to transfer into the overcalled suit, or the open suit, it shows a limit raise. Kind of like it would if you had you just bid it directly when you weren't playing transfers. Then transferring to the suit itself is like a constructive raise, and then just raising the suit directly is the trashiest raise of them all. So this hand, for example, West opens a diamond, North overcalls a heart, East makes a negative double, and South is sitting with an 11 count and 3 hearts. So they bid 2 clubs, a transfer to diamonds, which obviously cannot be just a normal transfer here. So this transfer to diamonds should show a limit raise, and now North will just drop it in two hearts. But in case there was a game in play, this is the way of finding it with that system. So that was it for overcalls. Then we spent a lot of time talking about slam bidding, and I mainly focused on how flawed the robots slam bidding is. Specifically, how they always use 4 Notrump as keycard. We're gonna call that an outdated concept and investigate some better alternatives. So we started by talking about the specific king ask, which is pretty straightforward. Showing your king and that with 5 no, basically showing your cheapest king possible. So this hand, for example, let's say North opens a heart. South is gonna, if they play Bergen, is gonna bid, hey, what's going on, PJ? South is gonna bid 3 diamonds Bergen if they play it. North is gonna launch into key card with 4 no. South shows 1 or 4, 5 clubs, which, well, 5 clubs if you play 14-30. If you play 30-14, of course, flip it. And like I said, I don't have a strong preference for one over the other. To each their own on how they want to do that. So whatever your 1 or 4 response is, and then North now bids 5 no to ask for specific kings. So on this hand, South would show the king of diamonds, which also denies the king of clubs. And now North should be looking at this, knowing they can get a pitch on the king of diamonds, but may not be enough. It's probably just parking this in 6 hearts. And now the caveat of this is, let's say you showed like a lower king, but were interested in a higher king. Of course, if it's under the Trump suit. The idea being then you can bid 6 of the next suit, or whatever the suit is, to ask for the king in that suit, and basically it's like an asking bid. Sign off in 6 if you don't have it, and bid 7 if you do. So for example, on this hand, if South instead had the king of clubs and bid 6 clubs, and North was for whatever interested in the king of diamonds for some reason, maybe they had ace dub instead of stiff ace, they could bid 6 diamonds, which is basically saying, if you've got the king of diamonds, bid 7. If not, just sign off in 6. So you can have that kind of like asking bid alongside the specific king. Then we talked about the queen ask, which is okay. That board didn't get saved for some reason. We did talk about the queen ask. For some reason it didn't get saved. I must have screwed up when I was editing these hands the other day. But the idea with the queen ask, and this is a point I was going to make with respect to the robots, is the way the robots do it is a little flawed. For the queen ask, what it should be is if you don't have the queen, you sign off in 5. If you have the queen and multiple outside kings, you should bid 5 no. If you have the queen and only 1 outside king, you should bid it like a specific response. Like 6 clubs if you're looking for hearts, shows the queen of hearts and the king of clubs. And then if you have the queen and no outside kings, you should be bidding just 6 of whatever your suit is. Whereas I think the way the robots do it is, I don't know exactly how they do it, but I've been very surprised every time I've seen it, and I'm like, why did they do it this way? This doesn't seem like the standard treatment at all. So that's the way I think a queen ass should be played. And then we focused on how, having 4 no as always being key card is a little problematic, of course, especially with the minor suits where, based on what type of responses you play, you could easily get past 5 of your minor. So the improvement is to play kickback. And kickback, the idea is that you play 1 over your trump suit at the 4 level as your key card. So going up the line, for clubs it's 4 diamonds, for diamonds it's 4 hearts. For hearts, because the 5 spade response to with the queen could get you past 5 hearts, you should play 4 spades. And then for spades it's just 4 no, because that's what's over 4 spades. But with this, no matter what the response is, you cannot be above 5 of your trump suit. So if you need to sign off, you get to safely sign off without any problems. So on this hand, for example, North, let's say North doesn't decide to upgrade their hand with a 2 no opener and instead opens 1 diamond. South decides not to bid 3 no and goes through inverted instead, starts with 2 diamonds. Now North launches into 4 hearts. And now, you can safely show your key cards and ask for specific kings without really having any problems here. You'll always be able to park this thing as a result, which is a huge advantage of that system. Then we talked about exclusion, being able to key card with voids. The idea being that if you were to like jump in some suit that's in a very, very clear situation, emphasis on clear, because sometimes if it's not, it can be a little confusing. But in those situations, you should be asking for all key cards outside that suit. Now, of course, you have to figure out what type of keycard responses you would be playing to that. Some people just keep it as is if they play 1430 or 3014. Others play just regular, like normal, non-keycard, like 0, 1, 2, 3. To each their own, but it is a good system in place. So this hand, for example, is an example. This hand, for illustration, is an example of that. North opens a heart. South bids three diamonds Bergen if they play Bergen raises, or just however they show their 4-card limit raise. Then North bids 5 clubs, which should be exclusion outside of clubs. South would show 1 key card, which of course North knows what it is. And then, they could explore further. They might ask for specific kings, and when you find out that you have the king of diamonds, you're pretty excited. But of course, with king third instead of king dub, got to pump the brakes on 7. Nobody well, some people do like grands on finesses, but not everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea. So you can definitely do that with exclusion, just so there's no confusion, because of course your ace of clubs in this situation is pretty worthless. And then last but not least, we talked about Gerber, the convention everybody hates, and the one that gets passed whenever I bid it. We talked about, I like to use it for first and last no-trump bids. And I also said that instead of just playing straight for Gerber when we don't agree upon, or when we don't have a suit agreed upon or implied upon, I like to play how we just play 1430 regardless, where the idea is that 5 clubs or 4 diamonds would be 1 or 4 aces, 4 hearts would be 3 or 0, and then 4 spades and 4 no are 2 aces with different types of no trump hands. A weaker one with 4 spades and 4 no is stronger. I felt like that gets you to some tighter slams and also keeps you out of ones that you might be bidding if you don't have that in place. But in this situation, you do have a fit, so you don't have to worry about it. North opens a no trump. South bids 2 clubs. North bids 2 hearts. And then South bids 4 clubs, which should be 1430. And of course, the advantage of this is, if you need to stop in 4 of your trump suit and you don't want to go to the 5 level, you can safely do that instead of just playing ordinary kickback. So there is a plus in that. All right, so that's really all we talked about last time. So let's just get through what we have left, which is not a whole lot. So first thing to talk about is no trump defenses. Of course, if you ask like 10 people what their favorite no trump defense is, you're probably getting like 4 or 5 different answers. There's a lot of different ones out there. The key is to find one you like. Of course, it should be one you like. It should be one you can never forget. Some people forget different ones, so if it's a more out there one, maybe you should avoid playing it. And then the key point is that it should cover the majority of the different hands you'll encounter after a no trump opening. Your 1 suitors and your 2 suitors. I don't like Capiletti against strong no trumps like the robots do. I just don't really see a point in a penalty no trump, or a penalty double, I mean, against a strong no trump. Especially when you're, especially with equal hands. Like, yeah, sometimes you have a 19 count and you want to hit it, but you don't think they're going to be able to find a run out. They have systems in place for it. So I feel like that's a flawed system. Against weak no trumps, sure. Because against a weak no trump, your double should be, hey, I have a strong no trump opener. There it makes a lot more sense. Against strong no trumps, when you and the no trump opener are going to have nearly all the points, I just don't really see the plus in it. The main consideration to make with a no trump defense is, the agreement on length in what's called the anchor suit versus the other suit when showing a 2-suiter. And what I mean by anchor suit is the suit that you're actually bidding to show that suit in some other suit. So like, for example, in Meckwell, where you bid 2 clubs to show clubs in a major. Does clubs have to be longer than the major? Or can the major be longer? Some people have different thoughts on this. Some people play that it can just be 5-4 in whatever suits. Of course, if you play that, you run the risk of being in a 4-3 fit instead of a 5-3 fit. That's not always great. Some people always say that the anchor suit has to be longer, in which case you don't run into that, but also kind of restricts your ability to show the different hand types, which is a little bit problematic. And other people sometimes, if based on your system, if you have a single suitor, if you abide by having the anchor suit always longer, and you have 5-4, and you don't have a way to show the other way around, you sometimes show a single suitor with the 5-4, which is of course very problematic as all. I think single suitors should almost always be 6-baggers. If not, they're going to have to be very good 5-baggers. So there's a few defenses that properly capture this. The one that I'm going to advocate for is called multi-landy. You might have heard this referred to as Woolsey, or a few different names depending on where you're from, just like how Cappelletti is called Hamilton and different places out there. So the idea is that with one no, a double shows at least 5 cards in a minor and then 4 cards in a major. So 5 or more in a minor and 4 or more in a major. So here, if you're interested in the minor, you can bid 2 clubs, pass or correct. And if you're interested in the major, you can bid 2 hearts, pass or correct. 2 clubs is, hey, what's going on, Steph? 2 clubs is both majors. 2 diamonds is 1 major. And then 2 hearts and 2 spades are basically how they are in Cappelletti, which is where you're showing at least 5 cards in the major and 4 cards in a minor. So it's basically the inverse of the double. That way, you can show which one is longer than the other. Not every defense properly captures this, which is a bit advantageous. Of course, there's a drawback when you do things like this. The main drawback with multi-landy is that you can't show a single-suited minor. To be able to do that, you're going to have to jump to the 3 level, like 1 no, 3 clubs, or 3 diamonds. That's not great. I mean, not every hand can stick its neck in all the way at the 3 level to be able to convey that and not run the risk of going for a number. I've tried fitting it into this system. It doesn't really work. You don't just have the room to, show that hand and then do the proper ask and be able to land on your feet. But, at the end of the day, if you like having the ability to have the peace of mind and knowing which suit is longer than the other when your partner is showing a 2-suitor, this is advantageous. If you don't care and, you're going to play 5-4 whatever and just hope it works, then other defenses work well, like Don't or Mech well. I play Mech well in the majority of my partnerships, actually, and I don't have a problem with it. Don't is also, Dont's a little more basic, but it works fine as well. But if you want to have, the ability to know what lengths your partner has in those suits, then, multi-landy is a good one. Some people also just like playing landy, which is where you just show the majors and then everything else is natural. Like I said, a lot of different no-trump defenses out there. You just have to pick on one that you're comfortable with. So the other thing that we should talk about, and, you're not really going to see this on a convention card, but it's about talking about other defenses to some, more normal conventional openers out there. So, for starters, the precision 1 club bid. There are a lot of precision bidders out there if you go hunting far enough. And there's a few different defenses out there. There's Crash, there's Suction, there's Mathy, and you know what? I've played variants of them before. And then I decided to ask 2 leading experts on precision what they thought the most effective defense against their strong club was. And you know what they said? They said Mathy, for whatever reason. Mathy being the most basic, yet it's somehow the most effective, according to Mextroth and Rodwell. So I've slightly enhanced it, and I made it Mechwell Mathy to give tribute to the Mechwell defense. The idea being that over 1 club, double is both majors, 1 no is both minors, which is how it is in regular Mathy. And then 2 clubs can be clubs in a major, and 2 diamonds can be diamonds in a major. Your Mechwell bids. If you have the necessary length and ability to stick your neck into that level, that's not a bad treatment. Crash is a little more complex, but it's also not crazy. I can link to that in my Discord. I played it before. You have to remember it, and you have to be able to sacrifice at the proper level, but it's not a terrible idea. Then Precision 1 Diamond. Of course, if they're playing Precision 1 Club, they're also going to play 1 Diamond as 11 to 15, at least 2 diamonds. So it is a short diamond. And with a short diamond, and with a short club, you should be able to overcall their suit and have it be natural instead of Michael's. So what I'm recommending is that 2 diamonds is natural, and then 2 hearts is the weaker Michael's. I should have specified this. Weaker Michael's, because Michael's is of course mini maxi, and then 3 diamonds, stronger Michael's, because you don't want to have the stronger Michael's with 2 hearts and then see your partner pass and then you've missed game. So you should just reserve that for the weaker Michaels, and then the stronger Michaels should be 3 diamonds because, of course, then you can safely be on the 3 level most likely. But you should be able to overcall that suit naturally at the 2 level, which is an improvement just against a short diamond, just like how you should be able to do it against a short club, which I'm going to get to a little later. Then the other defense to consider is Flannery. Flannery is a dying convention, but you still see it being played, especially for the people who don't like having that, 4-5 hand in the majors that, has problems with no trump rebit after forcing no trump. So the idea with that is they still play Flannery for that reason. And the way that I defend against it, and there's a few different ones out there. This might be the standard one, but double should be lead directing. You've got diamonds. 2 hearts should be take out of hearts. Of course, that's their 5-card suit, so that shouldn't be natural. 2 spades, both minors. 2 no, natural. And then 3 of a major is basically Western Q saying, I can stop this major, but I'm asking if you can stop the other. Some people play 2 spades as natural and 2 no as both minors. I've seen that one too. But I don't know if I'd ever really want to overcall either of those 2 suits for natural purposes, knowing I'm about to step into a bad split. So this might be an improvement on that. It may not. I think these 3 bids are relatively standard. These are the 2 that have a little discussion. Transfer Club is one that's being played a bit too these days, where the idea is that over their 1 club opener, their response is a transfer. So, like, 1 diamond is a transfer to hearts, 1 heart is a transfer to spades, and so on and so forth. So, with this, the idea is pretty straightforward. Bidding the suit that they're transferring into is takeout. So, like, 1 club, 1 diamond, a heart transfer. 1 heart by you after that 1 diamond bid should be takeout of hearts. It should be like your takeout double. And then doubling the suit itself should be a lead directing transfer. Or not a lead directing transfer, just a lead directing bid of that original suit. That way, if you guys want to compete in that transfer suit, you can't. And then, like I was alluding to with Michaels, over 1 club, and not even just for short club, I like to play 2 clubs as natural. The reason why is because 2 clubs, not 2 clubs, 1 club has such a high frequency of being a 3-card suit, or at least a much higher frequency than 1 diamond, of course, which is only on the 4-4-3-2 hand. You should be able to overcall that suit naturally. Of course, you have to have what you need for this overcall. If you're not going to have you should have a 6-card suit, and if you're not going to have 6, and you're going to be dangerous, it should be 5 very, very, very good ones. Because they could have length, and then you're going to have a problem. So, over 1 club, I like to play 2 clubs as natural, and then 2 diamonds as Michaels. You lose the weak jump overcall. That's not a huge loss, with those hands, just bid 1 if you feel like it's good enough, if it can play on the 1 level, and if you want to go for it, bid 3. And now 3 diamonds could be either 6 or 7. So you do lose that, but the ability to overcall that suit naturally, because there are a lot of times when they open a club and they've like basically stolen your opener. And you have the club suit, of course. I mean, the standard way of handling it is to pass, hope you can get in the auction again and show that club suit, but sometimes if it goes a club, a major, and then they raise, you can't get in again until the 3 level, so now you're kind of stuck. Plus, if you overcall 2 clubs, this person has to be able to squeak out a bid at the 2 level, which is kind of a good thing. And they have to figure out what that double means, whether it's just negative or whether it could be construed as penalty. So you're confusing them in that regard because it's not the natural meaning. It's got a lot of things going for it if you think about it like that. So, to go back to our convention card, which is right after I finish this, is actually going to be filled out. I will take screenshots of this convention card because I don't know if there's a way for me to share it with everybody. I don't know how to download it or anything. I will just take screenshots and put it in the Discord channel. So, we play Michaels, and we're going to make the improvement to it that 1 club, 2 clubs is natural, and then, I should reverse these parentheses. And then 1 club, 2 diamonds is Michael's. And then with no trump defense, I'm going to say you need to have 2 different defenses here. You need to have one against strong, and you need to have one against weak. And you have to have a definition for how you play a strong no trump. My thinking for strong no trumps is as long as it has 15 in the range, it's strong. So like if they play 13 to 15 or 14 to 16, I think of that as a strong no trump, and I think of like 12 to 14 or anything below as weak. There's people who play it otherwise. I've heard Mextroff say that if it doesn't have 17 in the range, it should be weak. So even 14 to 16 can be taken as a weak no trump, which I think is a little crazy, but he knows best usually. So strong, at least 15. 2 clubs. I'm gonna play multi-landy here. So this is going to be both majors. This one is 1 major, hearts and minor, fades and minor, and then double is 5 plus M, or plus big M. Of course, little m being for the minors and big M being for the majors. And then squeak, we'll just play Capoletti. That's easy enough. So 1 suitor, majors, hearts and minor, fades and minor, and then big hand. That's good. All right. Versus weak, you like playing double as strong, 2 clubs as majors, and the rest transfers. Yeah, I've heard of that too. I know there's modified Capoletti and there's like these transfer systems, transfer defenses too. They're interesting. Modified Capoletti is a decent improvement on regular Capoletti. If you haven't looked it out, I can link that. I can link that as well. It allows you to convey a few more hands, especially the big problem with Capoletti is that with a clubs 1 suitor, you can't play 2 clubs. But modified helps you out a little bit there, so I can link that as well. And then just to review everything we talked about, because we have gotten through the convention card more or less. While I like my system, it is by no means perfect. It works for me. It's kind of crafted around being a little more of a conservative bidder and really focused on having a lot of different bids means certain things with like length and whatnot. It basically all the jump shifts are never like natural and invitational like the robots play it. They all have different things, whether it's crisscross for the minors or for the majors or for Bergen. I mean, basically no weak jump shift that I play is natural. Or well, not weak jump shift, but any bid that is in standard a weak jump shift. That's not great, but it works, or I've found that it works for me. The key thing to making a system, or at least having a system that you and your partner can play with, is finding ways to maximize all the different ways that you can show different hands with the space you have, and basically removing any redundancy that can come into the card. There are a lot of different places where there can be redundancy in the bidding. There can be multiple different ways to show the same hand. There shouldn't be. There should only be one way. So if you think you have 2 different ways to show it, remove one. Well, or change the meaning for one. Like for example, the fact that we play, we play that 2 clubs guarantees a major over 1 no, because we don't use 2 no as an invite there, and we use 2 spades as a size ask. When we promised a major, we had 2 spades and 2 no available to us each time that we have 4 spades after our partner responds 2 hearts. So you should make them mean something different. You should that's why we said that 2 spades should be the weaker invite and 2 no should be the better invite, because there was redundancy, so might as well remove it. And then the last point is I am always happy to refine my system. In fact, most of the changes that I've made to this within like the last year and a half or so is just coming from like being at national tournaments talking about our card, which usually happens late at night, like 11:30 or midnight, and saying, "Hey, I see a gap here. Let's do this instead." And then we make changes based on that. You know, just never be fully content because there's always areas for improvement. Um, some thought will always come into your head, and you'll say, "Hey, why didn't I think of that? We should have that in the system." So always be in a state where you want to improve upon it, and never just be fully content because the more you tinker with it, the more you get closer to what you think is perfection until you figure out that there's another thing missing. But through a lot of tooling, you get to something that works really well. And yeah, that is basically a wrap on the bidding series. It's been fun doing this for like the last, what, 5 or 6 weeks now since I started with it. So it's been pretty solid. I feel like it's gone well. Hopefully people have gotten good information out of it. And if you guys want to contact me for anything, question wise, or thought wise, if you want to hit me up about about your system and where I see some gaps, I would be happy to take a look at it. I feel like it's gone well, and just to make another announcement, um, because we've gotten through this, and I should add a link to this online document with the videos. Yeah, I mean, I can on my YouTube channel, I can definitely mention those notes as well because I don't have them in the one location. That's a good point. I will make sure to add that. So the announcement I was going to make is, I think starting Friday, because that's normally when the next part of the bidding series would come, I'm going to jump right into the next series. And a lot of people have been clamoring to talk about signals and leads and whatnot, so I thought it would be good to do a short defense series, basically go through this section of the card and talk about what I like there and why. It's not nearly going to be as long as a bidding series, so if you're clamoring for like a 6-week cram course in defense, I can't really do it. If you want that much level of detail, I would recommend a book. I'm going to talk about it much faster. It's probably going to be like only 2 or 3 parts, but it should give you enough background to have some comfortability with your defense. Because at the end of the day, it is an area. What book would I recommend for defense? I've and I haven't read a lot of bridge books in a long time. I used to read them a lot when I was starting, but it's definitely been some time since I've read one and really tried to take away from it. But when I was starting, I found that Frank Stewart's book on defense was very, very good. I would shout him out for from a defense perspective. Um, I've heard Root's name mentioned before too. I think that's probably a safe bet too. Of course, he is a very old school player back in the day who had a lot of big impact on the idea of bridge thought. And yes, exactly, Turtle. I mean, at the end of the day, if you think about it, 25% of the time you're going to be declaring, 50% of the time you're going to be on defense. So if there was one area of the game to be good at, it should be defense. You shouldn't be slopping tricks on every hand and costing yourself boards because that's just an easy way to have a bad game. You need to be on a good defensive standing point with your partner. And in fact, part of the reason my system is a little bit more conservative in terms of bridge thinking, in terms of bidding, is because I like to defend. What book can I recommend to improve your dummy play? Any book, because when you're dummy, the best way to stay at ease is to not focus on the hand and watch your partner make a mistake. If you're reading any book to distract yourself, it goes really well. Yeah, it is 25% of the game that really doesn't get enough exposure. All right, guys. From a video standpoint, I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you guys for watching this. I've had a good time doing it. And like I said, defense series, I'm going to start on Friday. And of course, I will be recording that and uploading it to YouTube. I've made a playlist for the bidding series. Of course, this last one I'll put in later. And you also find one for defense similarly. Thank you, everybody. And for those who are interested in streaming, I'm going to be